In this video, I'm going to go over some of the concepts of the time value of money. In particular, this video is about future value. Now, what is future value? Essentially, it's an investment question. If you put some money away today, what will that money grow to in the future at a certain rate of return? Now, there's lots of assumptions here. The amount you invest is not an assumption. The time frame really isn't an assumption. The assumption that we're making here is that we actually know the rate of return we're going to earn over time. That is just an assumption that we're going to meet. We're going to assume that it is constant. In reality, it is not constant. It will change from time to time. But we have to have some formula to give us a basis for understanding where we might go in the future with investments. Now, another point to make just before we get started is that when we talk about returns here, we are talking about an average. For the math to work, you don't have to earn a rate of return, let's say 10%. You don't have to earn that 10% every year. You have to average that rate of return over the time frame. Some years you may earn 5%, some years 15%. It will vary, but we're looking for an average rate of return. I have a worksheet that's available for us. It's called the Time Value of Money Worksheet. And this will help you with understanding or coming up with the solutions to problems. A couple things about my worksheets. All of the yellow cells are data points. This is where you can put data. I have provided, where possible, formulas for the solution boxes, right? So if you want to find the solve for the present value of money, you need to put this formula. Here's the rate of return per period. Here's the total number of periods, the payment, future value, and type. So let's talk about the cells. Future value. This is what, in this exam or this worksheet, this is what we're solving for. What is the future value? Present value is the amount that we invest. What you need to remember, though, is that the computer isn't smart enough to know whether you're talking about an investment or a withdrawal of cash. So you need to understand that the present value will almost always, 99.9% of the time, be a negative number. The annual interest rate is the stated interest rate that you're given in the problem. Time in years is hopefully self-explanatory. It is in years. Now, we also have some additional constraints. Compounding frequency. When we start learning about time value of money, we're going to assume that money interest is calculated once a year. In reality, that is not true. It is sometimes often different than once a year. It can be once a year, twice a year, quarterly, 4 times, monthly, normally, 12 times. We could even have compounding frequency that's 365 days, 1 day out of 365. We also have different types of cash flows depending on when the money is invested. Typically, in the models that we have in spreadsheets and the financial calculators that we might use, we always assume that the cash flows that we're looking for occur at the end of the time period. That's what's referred to as an ordinary cash flow. An annuity due or a due cash flow is when the cash flow occurs at the beginning of the time. this really isn't important for lump sum types of calculations. It is more for the payment calculations. We do have a cell to put in payments. Remember, you can receive payments, which would be positive, or you could make payments, which would be negative. The growth of an annuity, this and perpetuity, this allows us to incorporate some type of growth. Usually we're talking about adding inflation to a cash flow. So let's think about how we might calculate, again, time value of money. If you invested $1,000 today, if it grew by 10% and it was there for 1 year, what would it be worth at the end of the year? $1,100. What's 10% of 1,000? $100. So the future value would be $1,100. What would happen if this would grow for 2 years? In 2 years, it grows to $1,210. Now, 2 times 100 is 200. Where did the other $10 come from? This comes from the compounding strategy within time value. It is not a multiplicative or an additive function at all. It is an exponential function. And if you look at the actual formulas, you'll see that there is an exponent in the formula. So let's take this example. Let's assume that on the day that you were born, your parents love you so much, they put $50 in a savings account. When you're 18 years old, how much would be in that account if they only made that one $50 investment? Now let's look at another example very quickly. What if the day you were born, your parents looked at you and they said, we're going to invest $1,000 in our child's account. Let's assume they're pretty good investors and they can find things around 10%. How much money would be in there at the end of 18 years? You're ready to go to college. In 18 years, that would be $5,559. $1,000 grew over 500%, right? What if you said, at 18, I really don't need this money. What if I let that money sit until I'm 65? If it sits till you're 65, that would be $500,000, $490,370. A one-time $1,000 payment grows exponentially to $490,000. Now we can incorporate one little adjustment here. What if the compounding frequency changes? What if we can earn this 10% not once a year, but the 10% divided by 12? It's a little bit less than 1% per month. What would that do? So if you change the compounding frequency to 12, so now it's going to calculate interest every month, that $490,000 is now $647,000. So again, pretty big amount. The idea here is to understand that money grows exponentially, and the moral of the story is if you invest early enough, you can achieve great values over time, as long as you have the discipline to let the money sit and grow. Buy and hold is an investment strategy. Well, that's it for this video. Some will be a little bit shorter, some a little bit longer, but I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.